cultural character and activities of Imam Khomeini.
If we consider values, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors as major elements of culture, and if we call someone who tries to change old values and establish new values a cultural character, then we will understand that Imam Khomeini is the greatest cultural character, not only in contemporary Iran, but also in the region and Islamic nations. Mainly, Imam Khomeini is known as the leader of the greatest popular revolution of the 20th century and the founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran. But he dealt with politics as much as necessary, as he deemed it his duty. But he gave most of his attention to the cultural realm of the society. According to him, culture is the main element of society, especially in a century where the dominant Marxist ideology considered the infrastructure of the society as lying within the relations of production. And other theories, while criticizing Marxism, did not take culture into account as the main variable. Imam Khomeini gave priority to culture because he believed in unlimited human abilities. He described human beings in the following way in February 1981.
اساس عالم بر تربیت انسان است. انسان اساره همه موجودات است و فشرده تمام عالم است و انبیا آمدند برای اینکه این اساره بالقوه را بالفعل کنند و انسان یک موجودی الهی بشد که این موجود الهی تمام صفات حق تعالی در اوست و جلوه‌گاه نور مقدس حق تعالی است.
Imam Khomeini, based on his outlook on human beings, viewed culture as the main parameter in all social and historical developments, and paid serious attention to it. One of the manifestations of this focus was the priority Imam Khomeini placed on universities and students. He expressed his viewpoint on the issue in the following statement.
My dear children, I'm not afraid of economic sanctions or military intervention. What does frighten me is cultural dependency. In fact, I am afraid of a colonial university. I am fearful of a university which trains our youngsters in a way that they serve the West.
Although he was one of the most prominent and influential personalities of the time, he never imposed anything on the Iranian nation beyond their cultural framework. Imam Khomeini encouraged the people to remember their deep and rich cultural roots, which were forgotten because of westernization and the rule of despotic governments. He transformed a nation that endured years of tyranny and strangulation under the Pahlavi regime, and youngsters who were entangled in the culture of dependency, into a determined nation with brave and patriotic young people. It may be claimed that Imam Khomeini's greatest cultural service was to instigate change in the minds and hearts of the Iranian nation. During the first years after the victory of the Islamic Revolution, the Imam succeeded in changing the nation's thoughts by focusing on their abilities and self-reliance. Imam Khomeini, who was the perfect example of self-reliance and bravery, always invited people to foster such values. From the early days of the Islamic movement, Imam Khomeini insisted on the necessity of the presence of the people in political, economic, and cultural arenas, and considered the people as the essential pillar of power in the Islamic Republic of Iran. His famous statement that the criterion is the people's vote is a meaningful legacy that has closed the door to any autocratic thoughts. He was a logical man who defended the nation's freedom, both in theory and in practice. After a quarter of a century since the advent of the Islamic Revolution, Iranian intellectuals, relying on the valuable experiences of previous years, have reached maturity in their questioning, methods of investigation, and executive procedures. In today's Iran, democracy is interpreted as the major element in the country's political life, and people will reject anyone who disregards their freedom. All these improvements in the social arena have been obtained through this great man's efforts. At the end of this section, another aspect of Imam Khomeini's personality should be mentioned, which involves his role in the revival of Islamic thinking and Muslim nations. Anyone who wishes to study the contemporary history of Muslim nations should first explore the impact of Imam Khomeini's thoughts and actions on them. Imam Khomeini never assimilated Islamic thoughts with nationalism. To him, the Islamic Ummah, or nation, was an objective entity, and he frequently spoke of the problems facing this nation and the solutions for them.
Imam Khomeini's life from religious point of view.
Among the clergy, Imam Khomeini is a prominent and distinct figure. Although he studied in the seminary schools where many other clergy studied, and he spoke of the religion of which thousands of other clergy spoke, there are certain delicate points in Imam Khomeini's life which led this orphan boy from Khomeini and the seminary student in Iraq to become the greatest religious personality of his age.
Although he was an industrious student, and he was ordained in the clarification of divine law when he was young, he learned that theoretical knowledge was not sufficient. He always pointed at the necessity and importance of purification and holy war against strong passions, particularly with respect to the clergy. He suggested in this regard,
If we do not change ourselves, we cannot rectify our country.
Imam Khomeini was a religious person who did not see religion just on the margins of life, but in the center of life, and he always tried to remind Muslims of this point. One of his characteristics, his faith and belief in truth and divine promises, should be mentioned. Having this kind of idea helped him believe in his aims. Nevertheless, the Imam, in spite of his unlimited faith, was very flexible in accepting new realities. In fact, he was a true manifestation of a religion which loves all people, no matter what their color or race. He wanted to make peace among all nations around the world, but he never allowed anyone to deceive him. According to him, it is not possible to build peace between the tyrant and the oppressed, so justice in human relations was his priority. Logic and love are often considered two opposite perceptions, both in Islamic and Western civilizations, but Imam Khomeini demonstrated that they could be reconciled. He was a rationalist philosopher and theologian, and the apparent master of rational sciences such as philosophy, principles of religion, and theoretical mysticism. On the other hand, he was a wayfarer who had learned the true path from great scholars such as Ayatollah Mirza Javad Malaki and Ayatollah Shahabadi, and passed the highest levels of practical mysticism. Apart from Imam Khomeini's full allegiance to Sharia as the objective manifestation of religion, he cared about the truth of religion and reconciled these two perfectly. In the religious realm, he gained the highest grade and became the spiritual leader of Shiites all around the world. He always used reasoning and convincing methods to persuade people and invite them to religious ceremonies, because according to him, inviting others to accept an idea by means of force was unacceptable. As God says, there is no obligation in accepting religion. Imam Khomeini invited others to Islam by his kind and honest behavior in his private, social, as well as political life.
Imam Khomeini's morality.
One Western author has suggested you worship God as much as you like other people. Given that criteria, it can be said that Imam Khomeini was a great pious man who loved all people and cared about their fates. As some of his close friends and followers reported, Imam Khomeini enjoyed the following characteristics: purity, patience, forbearance, and tolerance, courage, a trust in God, a love for all people, religious enthusiasm, austerity, abidance with law and religion, resoluteness, and kindness. He always made a distinction between his private life and public position. He never complained or let anybody defend him during the Islamic movement. During his leadership, he never complained to anyone, and no one was harassed for disturbing him. He did not care about the mortal world and earthly pleasures. During his leadership, he did not impose anything to the treasury and lived as simply as ordinary people did. He never let his relatives take advantage of his position. He did not declare anything that he himself did not practice. He was a truly brave man, even on the night when the regime's agents took him into exile. He said about the night he was arrested,
"I was not afraid at all. The night, however, the agents were very fearful, and I reassured them."
He showed his humbleness when he said that a martyred 13-year-old boy was the true leader. Among his resoluteness, he had a sense of humor and accepted the truth very easily. He was humble in confessing his mistakes, as he mentioned in his political testament. He always gave priority to the expedience of the political system. He possessed little property, and what he did own, he distributed among the poor. His simple words were very effective, and he expressed the most important messages in uncomplicated terms. He paid careful attention to his religious duties and practices, and political affairs did not prevent him from observing his religious and mystical prayers. Nothing could make him upset and angry, except violations of religious commandments. His decision about Salman Rushdie showed his religious perseverance. He had very good relations with young people and children even when he was old. In his private life, he respected his wife very much, as he respected all women. He was as humble to the nation as he was determined and tough towards the superpowers. He furthermore advised all statesmen of the Islamic State to serve the nation honestly and live simply. Contrary to the fact that suspicion is prevalent among politicians, he was an optimistic leader and never let bad thoughts influence his outlook on existence and people. For this reason, he went to his God with a calm mind, a confident heart, a hopeful conscience, and a happy spirit. It is the God he loved throughout his life, and for whose sake he tolerated many difficulties, and he was highly eager to meet with his God.